Are you remodeling your house? If you are, how are you paying for it? Are you doing cash? Are you doing a HELOC? Are you doing a cash out refi? Are you doing a number of different options? We are going to take you through all of them, the pros and the cons, and you can figure out what's best for you. Welcome back to another episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. My name is Dave Grant. My co-host is Heather Townsend. Today, we're talking about how you should be financing your home remodel. The number of different options out there, and we'll help you figure out the best for you. If you've not been here before, we split our podcast into a number of sections. We dive into content, we answer questions, we give you some information about ourselves, whether you want to hear it or not. We are going right into content. Our first section is called Let's Dive In. All right, so if you are remodeling, you've obviously done some planning. Hopefully you've done some planning, but we're going to talk about the different options. Let's just do a quick run through first, and then we're going to go into the deep dive. You've obviously got paying with cash. You've got a HELOC, which is a high line of credit against your home equity. You have got margin against investments. You've got a cash out refinance, which is a little different than a HELOC. And then you've got credit cards and loans from family. Heather, let's talk about cash. I'll lay it on you first. Have you done any home projects and paid straight cash for them?
Of course. 120%. The smaller ones, when I remodeled my kid's bathroom, it's a tiny bathroom. It was probably it should have been 15. What do you think it cost by the end of it?
$75,000.
No, 25. But, the joke is always over budget, and it took 4 months. Hysterical. But, that I paid with cash, just small things. When we repainted our cabinets before we remodeled our kitchen, painted the house, those small things I pay with cash.
I agree with you. I think the small things, if you've got the cash for them, if they're not big projects. I mean, we did a new driveway and we epoxied-ish our garage floor. We used a different product, but that we just cut a check for it. We're not going to go through the pain of financing that. This is something you save for and you just pay for. It's just the thing you do.
Yeah. I think when you get into these other options we're going to talk about, it's when you're doing the bigger remodels. I'd almost say it's 100,000 and above, maybe 75, but I don't know. With many of my clients, 75, I mean, we could technically probably save that in a year, right? That's not, I think it's 100,000 and above. That's when it starts to be okay, that's a sizable chunk from your cash.
I think where people fall into financing options is when there's been a lack of planning. Even for smaller projects. If they have not got that cash available and it turns out they need to do that project now for, say, for example, for windows. If they're finding they have to change their windows because things are rotting, it's not going to make it through the next season. If they don't have that cash, then they're almost pushed into financing options.
And that's why we have our clients have emergency reserves, right? There should always be some type of cash, and especially if you have a house, because anyone who has a house, I think it's hysterical if they're oh, no, I don't think I'm going to lose my job, or I don't think anything unexpected is going to happen. Oh, you just wait, buddy. You just wait.
That's interesting you mentioned emergency funds, because I have a real problem dipping into them for pretty much anything. So let's say you got a concrete patio and for some reason that then has a huge crack in it. Well, for safety reasons, someone could trip on it, injure themselves and sue you. You do need to fix this. I would have a hard time dipping into an emergency fund to do that patio. I just can't spend that cash. I don't know why.
You're very strict on your finances, right? It is tough for you in those circumstances. And it was for me, but I actually forced myself to get out of it this time with the remodel because something unexpected happened. I didn't want to finance it because it was small. It was $7,000. And I pulled it from emergency savings, and I've just been putting a few grand back in there. It's not, I realized I have an emergency buffer in my business. I have a huge, sadly, emergency buffer for taxes right now. I have to do my tax planning, right? And I'm I have cash, in other places too. So I was you know what? This amount of money just sitting here not doing anything when I have all my buckets already elsewhere filled, this is what it's here for.
HELOC is an acronym. It stands for Home Equity Line of Credit. You can use your equity in your home, and you can essentially build a line of credit against your house and your equity and spend it over time and then pay it back over time, and you don't have to take it all at once. That's a benefit because you don't take a huge amount of money and then start paying a huge amount of interest straight away. You can kind of piecemeal this and say, okay, if I've got a $100,000 line of credit, my first part of the remodel is 20,000. You just take 20,000. You can start paying it back immediately if you want to, if you're very sensitive to interest costs. So it's a nice flexible way to start doing some projects, and you can leave this line of credit in place for a long time.
It's normally up to, I don't know what you've seen, Dave, and it kind of varies obviously between lenders, but they normally don't let you go over 80% of your loan to value of the house. So for example, if your house was worth $1 million, you had a mortgage of 500,000, they would only allow you to have a HELOC of 300,000 because again, that gets you to your 800,000, which is 80%. Some of them are even 75% loan to value. I just talked a client into a HELOC. They've been wanting to do a big remodel project, a kitchen, avid cookers. So this is something that is going to bring them a lot of joy, right? This has been on their list for like 3 or 4 years, but they also, made a career change for the better. And so we put it on the back burner. Now it's taking off. And, they're like, okay, well, we can get back to saving to the kitchen again. And it's going to be like 150 grand. You have the equity in your house. These are very disciplined, amazing clients, right? They're not spenders. Like they spend, they enjoy life, but they're not like, I never worry about them not paying off their credit card or frivolously dipping into their emergency savings or anything about it like that. They save, they meet their investment goals, all of that. And I was like, instead of us waiting with what's coming down the pike with your income next year, do the HELOC because this is going to take you a year. You guys also want to start a family. Like, I don't want you having a baby with a kitchen remodel. Like, do this now. And what? It might add $1,000 to their minimum payments a month if they just pay interest on the HELOC, which they wouldn't. But for them to enjoy that instead of waiting and then maybe having to slowly, they'd have to then deplete some of their investment goals too. It's like you can have both.
Other bad consequences with using a HELOC. You're paying interest. That's probably the key thing up front. Like this is not a straight cash transaction. You are taking 10,000 out. Depending on how fast or slow you pay that 10,000 back, you're paying interest on that. The nice thing being it's an interest only loan for a period of time. Most of the time, correct me if I'm wrong, is it 10 years? And then it turns into a regular payment, something like that. But you only are needing to pay a small amount of the payment back for the first period of time. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be paying more than that.
Agreed.
But interest is going to be a cost to you if you decide to go this route. That interest is variable. If interest rates go up, your HELOC rate will go up as well. So don't get confused with any teaser rates that come out. This is tied to prime and most of the time above a prime interest rate. I'm not going to go into what prime is. But interest rates as set by the Federal Reserve, if they go up, that trickles down into bank products and you'll see your HELOC rate go up over time and so will your interest payments.
That's where I think you do have to be careful with HELOC balances and knowing someone's income and assets is that just to make sure that it doesn't get too sizable if interest rates, play it out. Like if you take 100 or 200 or 300,000 out, what if it goes to the 70s? I think it was the 70s when interest rates went to 18%. HELOC rates are what? Somewhere between 6 and 9-ish as we're recording this. So I think that that's a really good point. But I like the interest only aspect in case something like that did happen, right? It's not like the minimum payment could hugely spike with principal too. You could be paying down principal and if interest rates went up a little bit, then you just have to pay the interest.
Yeah. I'd say the only other downside is if you're planning on using a HELOC and you leave it inactive for a while, the bank can always close it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's their prerogative, it's their loan against your property. If they don't want to lend to you anymore, they don't have to.
Can we talk about margin? We all know that that's one of my favorite.
You're taking this exclusively because I know minimally about margin. So go.
So margin is where you can actually borrow, similar to borrowing against the equity in your home, you can borrow against the equity in your investments. So you have a taxable brokerage account, like a regular investment account, a non-retirement account, and you can borrow against your investments. Why I like this is there are a few reasons. One, it doesn't hit your DTI, your debt to income ratio. Like it doesn't show up as a minimum payment if someone was to go, like, let's go say I want to go buy a second home right now and I needed to run my debt to income ratio. It would just show my mortgage and HELOC. That's it. If I took margin.
I didn't know that.
I know. It's insane. I've asked lenders about this. Well, because there's not a minimum payment on margin like a HELOC is. My margin rate is better than my HELOC rate.
Okay.
Isn't that's crazy? I know. Now here's the thing. Miss Tax CPA here. Why do you think I chose to do HELOC in the end? Well, because I can deduct the interest on my HELOC. You can't deduct the interest on your investment account. So I'm a big fan of margin. I will say I have, of course, things in place to keep my clients protected. Let's say $1 million brokerage account. I'm not allowing clients to loan any more than 25%. 30 is my absolute max against it. So 300, because the market goes down, you have to keep 50%. Your margin allowance is only 50% of the account, right? So if the account goes down,
50? Okay.
Yeah. If the account goes down 20 to 30%, you could get yourself in a margin call situation where either they force sell securities or you have to come up with the cash. So
I think the key thing with a margin loan is people can use them if they don't want to sell the securities if they have huge capital gains. So I think that's a key thing. Because if you're looking to finance, this remodel and you're going to sell some of your investments, not only do you have to get the money for the remodel, but if you sell the investments that have the huge gains, now you've got a tax bill that goes along with it.
This is exactly why I use debt, right? Like, not like, I was like, I am not going to sell this much of my investments and take this big tax hit because obviously I've been invested in the market for a long time. My securities have big capital gains on them.
All right. Well, let's talk about other financing options. So if people don't want to do a HELOC, you can do what's called a cash out refinance. So let's play with numbers. You have a house that's worth $1 million. You have a $200,000 mortgage. You want to build an ADU, an additional dwelling unit. It's going to cost you $500,000. To do a HELOC on that, depending on what interest rates are, might not work because that's going to be a huge balance that you're going to have to pay off and a huge interest racking up, and you're going to need to pay that. So if you did a cash out refi, you can now, if rates are low enough, you can then spread that $500,000. You've now got a loan for $700,000. If you do a 30-year loan, you have now amortized that over 30 years, and your interest payment is not due immediately. It's due over that 30 years. So this is, A, for big projects, and B, it's when interest rates are low. Low is relative. Low in 2020s was 3%.
Well,
but you are going to reset your mortgage here.
I would say in this situation, if someone has recently bought, and let's say they remodeled their house with cash and now they want to do the ADU, so they have a lot of equity, that cash out refi might make sense because they bought in the last few years and their interest rate is very similar to today's. But for people that are sitting on our 2-3% interest from COVID time, like taking out a cash out refi to make your whole mortgage now at 6 to 7% when majority of it is at 3, that's when the HELOC makes sense.
It does. I've seen people do that when they trade up their interest rate if they're looking to sell within 5 years and they want to do huge improvements to increase the value of their home, enjoy it, but then ultimately sell it soon. And they'll eat that interest rate increase for the next 5 years, for example, but they know they're going to get a lot higher selling price in 5 years by doing those improvements.
All right. What do you want to say about family loans? Does this happen in your world?
Yes. So I have clients that are relatively wealthy through intergenerational wealth. Rather than wait to die to give their kids that money, they want to give them that money, but also teach responsibility. So it's going to be, okay, you want to do whatever to your house. but going to the bank is going to be just not an option for you. And there's not many options for you. Let's just do an intra-family loan where you get $100,000 from mom, dad, grandma, whatever. You pay it back at a decent interest rate, but it's not going to be as high as the banks. It's obviously got to be reasonable for the IRS. But it's teaching you the responsibility. It's giving you that money that you didn't have access to before. It can be an early inheritance if parents choose to forgive that loan. So it does have a lot of advantages. It obviously has emotional aspects too. Like you're not free and clear of your parents financially because they are now loaning you money. But if you're okay with that, then it's a great option at some point.
You know what's funny? I did have one of these, and you know what the parent ended up doing? They forgave the loan. Shocker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And nice. I think that's more common than we know.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly because of the disparity between the parents' wealth and the kids' wealth. And for some kids, this is a huge amount of money. For parents, this is, okay, maybe we don't take a trip for a couple of years if we are really going to kind of give this money away. But seeing your kid prosper, that's way better than any vacation.
Yes. So credit cards, I don't like this one. I don't like this one at all. I think this is just like dangerous. I did have one client though do a 0% for a huge, like, it was like, okay, $20,000 roof. Ugh. If I have to pull that on my emergency savings, it will make me not want to invest. Like it was like a psychological thing. So I was like, okay, just put it on the freaking credit card, whatever. Like we'll pay it off. Fine. But like, I don't know. I don't really deal with this. I don't like this. This I don't like. This ends bad. I feel like.
It does. I think this is for your cash flow ninjas who have figured out, okay, how much am I going to spend? What's the ideal credit card? What's my payment monthly? When does it have to be paid off? Before I accrue any type of interest, what's my backup plan? This is for your people who are very diligent and you know they're going to pay it off, and this is the last resort. Well, I think you did mention about retirees.
Yeah.
This is a different conversation when we're talking about retirees because you have a fixed cash flow. So let's say you're living off Social Security, maybe you got a pension and your assets. If you start adding these debt payments in, you're starting to affect your cash flow and it starts to increase the amount of risk you're taking. So I think it becomes a different conversation when you're talking about a retiree doing these things versus a pre-retiree who has got an income margin in their living expenses and what excess they have going to pay this off. So I get a lot more conservative when I'm talking about retirees doing this.
You know, that's a different situation. But some of my that comes into planning of like, do they want to leave a legacy to their kids? Like all of those things, right? Like totally different thing. I would say my retirees though, because they have sizable brokerages, I normally use margin for these like bigger house projects. It's not because we haven't factored into their plan. It's actually because we try to move around the tax exposure of the gains between years. Like if we're like in Q4, okay, let's margin like for half of this time and then I'll sell the remaining of the securities next year, right? Like that's just comes into tax exposure to not bump up because we have IRMA, we have net investment taxes. Like we have all these things that come at us as soon as we start jumping over these certain income limits, right? That we have to watch. So,
all right, before we move on, I mentioned this as we started. If you have been here before and if you like this content, we need a favor. Can you throw us one of these things? A like, a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow on a podcast channel, send it to your mom, send it to the boys or girls group chat. Do something that can help us spread this podcast, this video series out to more people so that we can get our message out there. And we appreciate you. Thank you. If this is your first time here, just sit back, relax. We're not asking anything of you.
Where's my bow?
Nope. We're moving on.
No. All right, so I'm going to put this in a bow because we kind of went all over the place here. If you're considering remodeling your house, if it's small projects, cash flow that. Use cash flow. If you are going to do a significant remodel and you don't have wealthy family that's going to loan you, or you're not already in a high mortgage interest rate, probably HELOC and margin are going to be options for you. And I would also think about debt sensitivity, like Dave and I talked about at the end. Just think about how you're going to feel about this, how much debt you are willing to take on where you can still sleep at night. That is really important, and don't over leverage.
Moving into the next section of our podcast, we are talking about questions related to this content. It is called What Would You Do?
We saved up $100,000 for a remodel, but our credit union is offering a HELOC with rates 2% below prime. Should we finance the remodel and pay it off gradually, or use all our cash now?
I am going to be controversial.
Oh.
If you've already got your emergency fund, if you're already doing your other savings, and you saved up $100,000 for the purpose of doing a remodel, use the $100,000 and pay for your remodel. Keep life simple. Heather Townsend, do you have something other than that correct opinion?
It's interesting. If they have not started investing or aren't investing much, I love liquidity too. So I'd actually say to invest some of that and maybe finance half.
Even if they'd saved up $100,000 for the remodel.
But okay, but what if they didn't have any investments, right? Right? What if they didn't have a brokerage? What if they weren't? Some people are so real estate heavy, and then they just put all this cash, I've seen it, into these illiquid investments. Great, real estate can be great, but it's illiquid, right? Like, no, we need to balance out here. So I am just saying that if this person was all real estate and this is what they did, I'd balance it a little.
We'll agree to disagree.
Fine. I'm happy with that.
Or you're going to force me to agree with you off camera.
No. Okay. Next question.
This is what she does, people. All right, question number 2. We bought a fixer-upper and need to remodel most of the house. How should we approach a project like this that could take years while also managing our other savings goals such as retirement and college?
You got to get a budget. What I've learned, though, of things that could take years, I did that with my house. I'm going to give some people some unsolicited advice. Isn't that what this podcast is? Just realized that. But anyways, all of it is, right? But, that's what I said I was going to do. So I cash flowed my remodel, got new floors, painted, refurbished the kids' bathroom, painted the cabinets in the kitchen, then randomly did the backsplash. Do you know what it ended up looking like? A freaking hodgepodge remodel. And then as you change one thing, this other thing needs to be changed. And I also went a little cheap because I was like, well, I'm not going to stay in this house that long, or, I didn't want to spend. Guess what happened? Heather tried to be cheap. That doesn't work out well. I ended up remodeling the entire house with an interior designer and a general contractor, and now it all flows, and now it's beautiful, and now I'm glad. But I wish I had done that all along instead of dumping, $10,000 into the new floors that I ended up redoing. The taking years, I don't know. I think it's okay if you'll do the garage second or the backyard second. Those are different parts. But if you're doing the interior, I would do it all at once, have a plan, get a budget, and then put a plan in place to do it all at once. That's what I would say.
I agree with you. Don't piecemeal this whole thing and make it look like you did one room a year. I think if you are going to approach it and it's going to take years, this needs to be a line item in your budget, just like retirement and like college. Because this isn't a surprise to you at this point. This is going to be a period of years where you're going to be putting money into this. So it needs to have its own line item.
Okay, question 3. Are there rules of thumb regarding financing versus cash payments for small projects versus large projects? Oh yeah, we talked about this. Dave, go for it.
This one's going to be relatively easy. Small projects you're paying cash for. Large projects, large is relative compared to your cash flow and the size of your house and not over improving your house, but then that should be financed. If you're in the Midwest, projects under 25 grand, pay for them in cash. Projects over 25 grand, finance that so you can get a break on having to save up that amount of money. If you're obviously on the coast, 25 grand is going to buy you a garage door. That's not going to buy you much at all. So obviously just adjust that to your situation. And if it's a cosmetic change that doesn't increase the value of your house, do not finance it. Pay for it in cash or do not do it.
Furniture is like one of those. Furniture does not increase the price of your house. You don't take with it. It might help you with staging if you have good furniture, but if you're going to go sell, but that doesn't increase the value of your house.
We do have an announcement. We are taking a break for a couple of weeks. When we come back, you're going to see something very different. It's going to look more polished. It's going to look different visually. And that's all I'm going to tell you. And we're moving on to our last section. It's called Highlights. This is where we tell you stuff about ourselves, professionally, personally, whatever we want to. All right, we have a competition every year in our house and across different family members, across different houses, and it's fantasy football. We are now in the playoffs, and there's 4 people in the playoffs. I am playing my son to get into the final, my 13-year-old. We have held the fantasy football trophy in our house 5 out of the last 6 years.
Wow.
The fact that I have to play him to get into the final is killing me because I wanted to play him in the final because then we could keep it in our house. But I won first week. We're going to the second week. Hopefully I win that, and then I get to take out either my brother-in-law, who else is in there? Or I think it's my wife's cousin. I'm taking him down, Heather. I want the trophy.
I love that you do this with your family, though. What a great way to I think this is a great way for men to communicate with each other, because you're not like women where you chit chat about I don't know, what's going on in your personal life, all this stuff. No, it's how you doing? Good. How are you doing? You need sports. Men need something to do together to stay in contact. So I think it's good.
Especially a competition. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can be you know what? Your quarterback sucked this week. I'm taking you down. Mm-hmm. And they're yeah, I know. But just watch my tight end just annihilate your whole team. So
I love that you have
it. It is fun.
So my highlight is...
What about you?
Very different than yours. We're really going into our genders right now, let me tell you. So I told... My friend came in town. I haven't seen her in probably a few years. We've been friends for over half our lives now. It's insane. Just, it just felt so good. It's like coming home when you have those friends that you've just been friends with so long. But right when she landed, I said, we're going shopping. I hired us a stylist. And she's like, oh, dear gosh. And I told my husband I was doing this because I don't have time to shop. I'm a business owner. I got kids. I don't have time to scroll through I just don't. It's just not something I have time for. Mm-hmm. So what did I do? I'm in my year of delegation, so I'm gonna delegate this out. So I was referred to the stylist. Awesome. You walk into the change room and she has everything lined up. It's amazing. So you just stay in the changing room and you just get to try on clothes. And if you need a new size, someone goes. I never went on the shop floor ever. It was great. Wow. I gave her a budget. Now, she, of course, went all the way up to the top end of my budget.
Yes.
But the funniest part of this was my husband goes, you're going to come back with nothing, because that's always what happens. Your style, you are so particular, no one can get you. It's what he also said about interior designing. Well, I found the interior designer. It took me 3 to finally get to the one I like, but I got to start somewhere. I came home with 2 bags. He's speechless right now.
I have a serious question for you. I'm from the Midwest. You know my dude. Do you think I could hire a stylist to take me into Kohl's, and so I don't have to leave the dressing room and she can just bring me clothes?
I mean, I'm sure it exists.
It doesn't work.
No, I was
going to say, does it work in Kohl's? What about Target?
Oh my God. I'm sure it exists somewhere. A stylist that you pay hourly might do it for you. Yeah. But you're going to end up paying. Oh God, you would. Yeah. Very funny.
Pay so much for the stylist, and then you walk out with Kohl's cash and your clothes are free.
Yeah. But I will say
sounds fun.
Yeah, it was fun. But I will say I might be returning a few things. I always sit on things. This is my thing for any woman who wants to hear. If I don't pull it out of the bag within 2 weeks, it goes back, because then I'm not going to wear it. That's my rule. That's
a good rule. Sarah does this thing in her closet where this is a new thing she's done for the last 2 years. Everything she puts on a hanger, and then at the start of the year, she reverses the way the hanger hangs on the pole. if it's that same way at the end of the year, then it gets donated because that means she hasn't worn it. And so every time
That's
she'll
such
take
a good
someone off to wear
idea.
it, yeah, she'll take the hanger off and then reverse the hanger. So
I'm gonna
it's
do
been
that.
really good. So thank you for listening to this episode of Playbook of the
Wait.
Wealthy. You can find us. Nope, nothing. Nope. Shh. You can find us on whichever platform you listen to podcasts. The video of the show is on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Spotify. If you want to send us an email, go to our website, playbookotw.com, or just a straight email, hello@playbookotw.com, and we'll see you next time.
Toodles.
All opinions expressed by Dave Grant and Heather Townsend are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the views of their respective wealth management firms. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Nothing in this material constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Clients of Retirement Matters and Townsend Financial may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.